keeps on passing, and all the hope I had returns. Oh, I believe in happily ever after. Oh, I felt fine until I heard our song. I feel like everything is gone, dying on Sunday morn. I feel like everything is wrong, dying on Sunday morning. There's more ways than one to kill another soul. I just prefer the pain on the inside. The moment I imagine keeps on passing, and all the hope I had returns. Oh, I believed in happily ever after. Oh, I felt fine until I heard our song, and I feel like everything is gone, dying on Sunday morn. I feel like everything is wrong, dying on Sunday morn. Dying on Sunday
I fucking love that song. That song right there, that was Dying on a Sunday Morning, which was off the When Worlds Collide LP that dropped in 2016 by Michale Graves. And it was financed by Kickstarter. as well.
Stand back and stand by.
That's a pretty good tool, right?
Kickstarter's a great platform
Hell yeah.
to raise money.
Yeah.
If you're an independent anything.
Yeah, I see a lot of musicians doing that, taking that route. Wow, it's thank you so much, Michael, for being with me. For you folks at home, Michale Graves, not the architect, the horror punk. he's on the podcast tonight. Michael is famous for being the lead singer of the Fucking Misfits during the 90s era. He was a young 19-year-old tenor when he was selected by Jerry Only to lead the famous Lodi, New Jersey, historically baritone-driven band between the years of 1995 and 2000, leaving briefly in 98 to attend hockey camp in Canada. He was in... he was in...
Not true.
That's not true?
That's absolutely not true.
Okay, we're going to get to that in 1 second. I'm going to let you correct any historical inaccuracies that are mentioned here. Please don't blame me. There's another person you can blame.
I trust.
He was.
I know.
So Michael, he was just for the people at home. You were in other notable bands throughout your career, of course. But what I'm fascinated by is the fact that you were a conservative punk before punk rock conservatism was even a thing. You're on record professing punk rock conservatism back in the day on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and now today you're just as open about your conservatism. Having been super vocal about your affiliation with the Proud Boys, a move that's taken a lot of flack. That you've taken a lot of flack for. And I have the utmost respect for you because of that leadership quality, that openness, that confidence, and that courage. So anyway, Mr. Graves, thank you so much for joining me on the stream tonight. But thank you more for always being a voice for the conservative movement, even in circles riddled with libtards. I really, really appreciate people such as yourself, contrarians, you know? And I wanted to ask first about your Daily Show appearance. What year was that, first of all?
Oh, man, 2005, 2006?
Okay.
Something like that.
Something like that. And that was, you were talking about Bush the way I talk about Trump. And you were a Republican before your time. And now there are many of us Republicans. I consider myself a Republican too, but I got to be honest, I was not a fan of Bush Jr. And do you believe that 9/11 was an inside job? Because I sure as hell do.
I do, absolutely. When I was on the Daily Show, it was in the middle of the conservative punk fallout. Everybody was fucking freaking out. Everybody was losing their minds. And I was actually exiting the music industry because it was so hard. And I wanted to join the military. One of the reasons, if you watch that video, I'm kind of, there's like a coldness to me. And I had just started to wake up about a lot of things then. But I couldn't go on that show and start saying contrarian things about the Bush administration, because that was going to mess up my chances to get into the military, who were watching me kind of closely. So the Daily Show actually came up to me. They approached me and asked me if I wanted to come on the show and just have some fun and just kind of, and take a piss out of the whole thing. And I said, absolutely, I'd love to. I would love to. And it made people's heads blow up even more, which was great.
Yeah. I mean, I would play that too right now. I wonder if that would be getting... Hold on one sec. Let me see this. Let me see if I can play it.
That's he's a tough fella. Now, the treatment of Iraqi prisoners has sharpened political debate here in America at a time when we already find ourselves increasingly polarized. What effect is all this having on the average citizen? Well, plenty, as Ed Helms found out in a special report.
Punk rocker Michale Graves is lonely. He feels marginalized and shunned by society.
Going through a hard time because I'm not going with the mainstream view.
And it's all because of what he stands for.
I'm a Republican and a punk.
The society that shunts him is the left-leaning punk community. But Michale stands firm.
I like George Bush because he truly embodies what I believe a leader should have.
If you're a Bush man, aren't you raging for the machine?
Yeah, quite possibly. Raging for the Bush machine. But then again, you can look at it as raging against the machine, and that machine is the liberal left.
So there are two machines.
Yeah.
It's like battle.
The overwhelming punk sentiment is anti-Republican. Lawrence Arms frontman Brendan Kelly.
I hate this guy.
I think the idea behind punk rock was that, like, the status quo is no good. How stupid and lame is it to be like, you know what I think is kick-ass? The president, the White House. I'm so down with that stuff. It's like, come on, guy.
And most of the other criticism Michale receives is equally as eloquent.
The last time I checked my mail was about 2 days ago. The first thing I clicked on, it said, F you, I hope you die, you suck.
Do punks cry?
Punks cry. Yeah.
Things weren't always so tough for Michale. His early life was full of happiness, until his politics changed all that.
It could be said that Bush embodies the punk spirit.
I think so.
You know, he walks into the UN and he's like, hey, you! We're gonna go into Iraq and we're gonna rock Iraq! We're gonna rock Iraq! Of course, I'm paraphrasing.
Michael's political message is not lost on his fans. But to be accepted by other punks, you have to reject the same things they reject.
being a conservative and being a punk rocker are opposed to each other. You can be a conservative punk. You can be a black guy that's into white power.
Like a vegan who hates vegetables, or an astronaut who's terrified of zero gravity, a mountain climber who hates Sherpas. Sure. When asked
That's
whether
hilarious.
punk was liberal or conservative, most Americans
Supposed to be neither.
thought it died in the 80s. Ultimately, punks are all outsiders, and while there may be differences, tolerance and mutual respect triumph.
I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody how to live their lives. You know, it's like you can be a conservative punk. That's a fine way to be if that's what you're into, but it's stupid. The guy paints a skull on his face. That's some weird.
In summation, temporary face paint, stupid. Permanent arm paint, awesome. After realizing what dicks those other guys are, I decided to take Michael to a place where his views are accepted. Welcome to the club.
People were just like, what?
Rest your weary soul, Michael. Fret no longer. In this place, your politics fit right in. Nice forehand.
Thank you, Ed Helms. We'll be right back.
That is pretty badass, though, that you got to do that. Hold on. Fix that
I can't
out.
believe how many people have seen that.
Dude. I mean, so, I mean, there's a couple things to unpack there. That guy, Brendan Kelly, is he...
Yeah.
Are you cool with that guy or what?
I haven't seen him. I don't know.
Yeah. No answer? Okay.
The only the only
Politics
time I
is
think about
politics.
Brendan Kelly is when I see that or somebody asks me about it. You know, one of the problems with, you know, there was conservative punk and then there was punkvoter.com, which was being run by Mike Burkett from NoFX. And the
Okay.
problem with that
Fat Mike.
is there were, well, Fat Mike, right. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars pouring into that organization, and it was George Soros money, and it was it was connected to all of the left-wing machine that you see today. And a lot of the things that they were actually talking about had weight behind it. You know, there were things that could have crossed the aisle to people that were conservative like myself. But there was just the door slammed in my face and anybody else that said anything to the contrary of what was going on. And it was because of the money that was flowing into those organizations, Punk Voter and all of the appendages of Punk Voter.
So what was Punk Voter exactly? Punk Voter was your thing, or that was... I'm sorry, I'm slow and I'm high. By the way, I hear that you're like a total pothead, just like myself. Is that true?
I've been known to, I've been known to partake.
Good. Sorry. Now, it interferes with my work every single day, but somehow I can't stop doing it. But anyway.
So, conservativepunk.com, conservative punk was formed. It was created in response to what was called punkvoter.com. Punkvoter.com's mission was to register, 100,000 kids and have them vote in a block. All the MTV kids, all the punk kids, all the, the Green Day crowd. The same people and the same groups that you all see out there now saying all the same things. So people like me, in particular, Andrew Wilkow, who's now on Sirius XM, back then was on WABC radio in New York and had a show. And I actually called in and we started talking. And so it was me, Andrew Wilkow, and his producer, whose name is Nick. I forget what his last name is. We, in response to punkvoter.com, we said, well, we're going to start conservativepunk.com so that we at least have some sort of voice against...
What year is this?
What's coming out of Punk Voter. This was 2004.
Okay, so this was so 2004 was that John Kerry?
It was.
Okay, so that's when I actually, I remember I started voting, and I was a total liberal, man. And I remember Fat Mike was pushing that stuff. And by the way, I want to make a shirt that just has Fat Mike's face on it, and it just says the guy who ruined punk rock. You know, because he really did. In my opinion, he ruined it.
And the reason that punk was ruined in 2004, when all of this money, in a big way, the progressive money started to flow into the punk movement. That's when Antifa really got going and really started to coordinate and again become funded. You start to pour money into anything, right? And it can grow. It's the gas in the tank of anything. And a lot of people, when they're offered money or their projects are all of a sudden funded, a lot of people, not myself not included, tend to,
like Fat Mike
maybe they don't say something, they don't agree with this, but whatever, as long as the money flows in, they're good to go. We see that in our movement right today, what's happening now.
Mm-hmm. People definitely, use the money the wrong way sometimes. But anyway, Fat Mike definitely ruined punk rock. I was at Fest 2016. You know what Fest is? You know, right?
I don't.
You don't? Oh my God. Fest is it's like supposedly, I mean, they bill it as like the largest punk rock festival. And it's every year in Gainesville, Florida. It's called the Fest. And then they have
I was literally kicked out of punk rock, dude. In 2004, I was kicked out. Nobody would, I was done. The stink was put on my name, obviously, to this day, just in a bigger way. Again, clubs, management, record companies, magazines. I was pushed. I was canceled before anybody was canceled.
Hell, I know. I can only imagine.
And so I took a different route because I couldn't get to the inside. And so I had to make my own way. Everything has always been independent because I've never been able to break through.
But isn't that the way that punk rock was supposed to be? It's supposed to be DIY. See, that's my thing. So let me explain my story really quick, because I just want to build rapport with you, because I feel like we do have similarities here, because I had my own. I had Bobby Pickles podcast. I had a different format for a couple years. I basically did a thing called Dying Scene Radio, and it's for this website Dying Scene. Do you know that? DyingScene.com.
I do.
It's kind of like punk, punk news, whatever.
Yes.
Yep. So I used to write for them, and I used to do their podcast, and I interviewed all kinds of punk rockers, everybody, all kinds of people, Cocksparrow. From him to Ben Weasel to, just think everybody. People in the Descendants and everything, man. So anyway, I was just immersed. I have a degree in English. I lived in New York City, man. I was immersed in liberalism, and people like Fat Mike led us astray. And I didn't really realize everything until, 2016, I went to this thing called Fest, and everybody, all these punk rockers were all preaching, that everybody should go vote for Hillary Clinton. And I just thought to myself, what the hell? This makes no sense. Punk rock is supposed to be about no government, number one. Okay. It's supposed to be about anarchy, really, and stuff. But if you were gonna play in the man's game or whatever, you're gonna pick a side and you're gonna get into politics. Why would you choose the side that has? It's not even about DIY. DIY isn't collectivism. Collectivism is totally the opposite of DIY. DIY is the least government possible, wouldn't it be? And it just dawned on me that it made no sense whatsoever, and that punk rock had taken a left turn, and now it was totally not even the same thing that I had grown up loving. It was all the different people. And so I really think that conservatism really is I mean, if you're going to pick a side to the spectrum, to the political spectrum, the right side is more about freedom. It's more about less government. It's more about DIY. It's more about like the real principles of punk rock. So
individualism.
Yes.
I never had a problem with Fat Mike and Punk Voter and what they were doing. Because I thought it was a good thing that there should be dialogue between two opposing, ideologies, and that's how you make progress by sorting through and talking. But it just my big problem, and you see with cancel culture now, is it's just the meanness, the mean-spiritedness behind it. It wasn't, because I was in the same. I was the lead singer of the Misfits. I helped build the scene. I was out there. I wasn't just some other guy, and I was treated so horribly for saying, "Hey, this is what I think."
Yeah, exactly. That's what you were a trendsetter. I mean, basically, you were talking about Bush, like I said, about the way that I talk about Trump. I mean, in that little clip right there. I mean, you were a punk you were a Republican before your time. And now, don't you think that it's kind of, even though yes, it's taken a left turn, as far as the punk scene goes, there are people like the Proud Boys, which you are a member. Is that okay to say? I mean, you came out and said that, right? I mean, I'm sure you've experienced a lot of blowback there too. From doing that.
My victory coin's right here, man.
Hell yeah, man. Nice. So
they're on my desk.
But don't you think that some of the Proud Boys kind of embody that punk rock attitude?
100%. Yes. I absolutely do. And that's what drew me to say, all right, I'll stand up with these guys. Absolutely.
Dude, what made you put yourself on the line and do that? I mean, I imagine there's probably a lot of people that depend on you to tour, I mean, and did you take them into consideration before coming out as a Proud Boy at all?
I always take my team into consideration. I take everything into consideration. I know, as I've always known, what the risks are in all that we do and all that we say. But that's the point. Especially now, there's risk in what we say. That doesn't make any. That's not the world that I want my children to grow up into, where there's going to be repercussions because you say that you love your country. You say that America is exceptional, that we're an exceptional nation, that it's risky. It's bad to say that I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of my father. I'm proud of my father's father and so forth. That's insane. And so I got in line. I stood up with Proud Boys because, again, it was something larger than just Michale Graves. The Proud Boys were under fire. I was under fire. People that I know and love were under fire in law enforcement and out of law enforcement. And yeah, so I said, I knew that it would gain attention as well, and then from that attention, I try to, as I continue to try to push the ball further down the field for all of us, and add my voice and whatever clout that I have to stick up for the things that are morally just and things that are righteous and the things that should be stood up for and fought for. There has to be leadership. You can't just roll over to mean people, these bullies, and that's what they are. Like, they're mean and they're bullies and they're hopeless and they hate themselves and they hate everything, and they feel good when they destroy. They feel good when they destroy things. And all of the people that brought me into particularly the Proud Boy organization, all the people that I've surrounded myself, with, especially now, are not destroyers. They're builders. And so I'm proud of everything.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot there, but it's just that, like I said before, I've interviewed a lot of punk musicians and whatnot, and I know what goes along with the whole touring aspect of everything, and the whole and you got to think of those guys too, and it's crazy because you are a leader. I mean, it's like you're a CEO of a company and you have a band or whatever. So
I always knew that if and when the bottom came out, which I had already knew that it probably would, because at some point we would be in a situation where I would be asked something, or at some point as there would be another contraction in the culture war, something would happen. Of course, as I have always done, I would say something or do something in response that would communicate what I thought about the culture that I've been a part of and that I've helped create and build for the past 25 years in the music industry, in the entertainment industry. But again, as the CEO, as the guy that I'm the tip of the spear, obviously, I knew, just as I've always known, that I would be able to rebuild and just use, like a judo move, use all the energy that comes at us that's negative and turn it into a positive. It was just this time, the guys that I was with and the level of attack that came, a lot of people put their tail between their legs and wanted to save themselves on Facebook. God forbid Facebook says something bad about them,
Fuck
and there was
Facebook.
a lot of businesses too that just couldn't take the heat because they had other clients and which I understand. So, yeah.
Dude, there's so many things I want to ask you. It's so crazy. My brain is scrambled because it's like I'm thinking about all the different things. God, do you think that there's more? All right, you always hear about musicians being outed as conservative here and there. There's probably a lot of them, don't you think? But everybody just pretends not to be. I think Ben Weasel's probably conservative and just on the down low. You know what I'm saying? Or there's probably
16 years ago we were the same thing. Sure, there's people that are conservative, there's people that agree with us, the people that agreed with us back then and didn't want to say anything because of the heat. Imagine now, nobody, and that's the point of it all, nobody wants to say anything. But just real quick, let me go back to the whole
intro.
I'm part of I'm part of the wave of people that carried the water for the Republican Party back in the Bush days and gave them the benefit of the doubt and fought for them and spoke up for them and put our careers and in some cases our lives on the line. I was the first person to speak at the Young Republicans Club in New York City after 9/11.
Nice.
I was in, I was fighting hard. But then as the lies started to come out and as people like myself became awake, we move into the Ron Paul revolution. And as, again, people like me became more and more awake, now all these years later, there's a massive amount of people that really know what's up and what's going on. But because of cancel culture, that's they've taken so many people off the main playing board. It's amazing. right? And now,
yeah. Can I say
consequences
something? Can I pop in? I know I don't want to step on you. I'm sorry, but I was like the stupid thought. Like, there's some 20-year-old loser who knows how to code, sitting in a back room, deciding who's going to be the winners and the losers. Continue.
That's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, can you imagine that? And not only that person, there's algorithms. You know, the computers, these algorithms that don't understand humor, they don't understand anything. They're just programmed to do what they do and to take people like me and take people like you off of the main system because, you know, we're non-essential and
because we're contrarians.
Yeah, and we're slated for destruction.
Why are we contrarians? Why are people become contrarians? I don't know what it is, but I have like a thing. It's like a gut instinct kind of thing, and I can just like tell if somebody's trying to scam me. Like just it's like an intuitive thing, I guess. I don't know. When I hear bullshit, I could tell it's bullshit somehow.
I think it's discernment. I think it's discernment that people get when they're you know, guided by good. They're guided by the light as opposed to the darkness. And you just kind of know when something's not right, something's off. Some people just naturally, I think some people like yourself are more, they hear that voice in their head more than others do. And I think that's
I know what you're talking about, man. I know exactly what you're talking about because I heard that voice today a couple times. And then I was like conscious of it. I was like, wow, I can't believe this voice is like talking to me. It's me talking to me, you know? And just like, I'm a mental case, man, but I'm just like making sense of the world. What the hell I think society was created just to get our minds off the fact that we're going to die someday. And we're all just creatures, you know? Human beings, just a creature. And I definitely believe in God because I've had a lot of death happen to me. And so I don't know if that just like comforts me or whatever, but I think that having God in your life does make you follow a good like path or whatever. And kind of you can steer clear of certain things. I think like the cream rises to the top. And if you really have that in your heart, like you have kind of like a shield or something, or it just helps you throughout life, whatever. I don't know. I think we're definitely, it's good versus evil. So you think?
I'm a Christian, born again. So I believe that, yeah, we
and me, I'm a Catholic, and today's Ash Wednesday, actually.
Right. I was raised Catholic.
I'm Catholic. I said this today. I know. I went to Catholic school my whole life, which means I know no Bible verses whatsoever. But I can tell you anything about the Catholic religion, though.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'll do the Act of Contrition, the Our Fathers, Hail Marys, right?
Uh-huh.
Exactly. But I don't know anything in the Bible.
Catholic school for a couple of years.
Oh my God! Listen. I don't want to drop a bomb on you, but you know, we both know a mutual guy, right? He's also a Proud Boy, and his name is Pawl Bazile. I would love to bring him on if that was cool with you. He's kind of standing by. Would that be awesome? Because he's, you know,
That would be awesome.
All right, so just a little backstory. I had Pawl on last week, and he did a documentary called Living the American Nightmare, and he basically, I mean, I don't know why, honestly, he followed Mike Haynes. Is that his name? Mike Haynes? Oh wait, Mike Hideous, sorry.
Funny.
Oh,
This dovetails perfectly into the intro with the hockey thing. And
I know. I got that information from this guy, Pawl. It's completely ridiculous inside baseball stuff, and the only person that could know that stuff or assume that it's correct is Pawl. But anyway, so I'm gonna bring him on because it's gonna be lively and funny. Let me get him to come. Hold on one sec. Let's just send him a text. Jump on here.
you got to let me apologize to him first. I've been waiting to apologize to Pawl for fucking years.
There he is. Boom. And let me just go ahead and assign him on. Oh, we're all on. Boom.
Mike, what's up, man?
Paul, good to see you. First of all, I've been wanting to apologize to you for years and years and years for any of my shitty attitude towards you, anything that I had said that was dumb, or I apologize to you. Truly, I'm not even gonna. I apologize.
You have no idea.
He probably deserved some of it. Okay, I was gonna say that.
Probably, I was like 25.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm sure he did.
I was a hungry little
Maybe
kid
a little.
back then. But if you want to talk about thirsty, I was the thirstiest. I was making the movie Living the American Nightmare with a guy named Mike Hideous, who was a singer for the Misfits in the interim period when Michael left in 1998. And I wanted Michael in the movie to tell his side of the story. And we kept going back and forth. And I think I interviewed everyone who was ever in your band at some point, and said nothing but great things. But I mean, you have no idea how floored I was when Bobby was like, Michael says good things about you, man. Because I went, he was asking me, what do I ask Michael? And I was like, there's 100 things you could ask the guy. And he goes, you should come on. I'm like, he doesn't like me. And he's like, no, he likes you. And I'm like, he definitely doesn't like me. And he's like, no, man. Like, he said that, some shit happened between you guys, and he
it was all on me.
Thinks it's awful. Dude, you have no idea how much that means to me, because I as we matured, I made peace with the fact that I said, whatever issues me and Michael had, and I'll tell you, man, I don't even think you know how deep it went after American Nightmare. I had a nervous breakdown for about 9 months. And I mean, we were listening to your radio show in our studio when you opened up about how much you can't stand me for some reason. I'm like, what? And we're listening to this, and my mom got death threats in her emails after that. And I fucking lost it. I was like, this fucking guy, blah, blah, blah. And as I grew up and matured, the thing I realized about you and anyone else I might have issues with is those issues didn't start with me, and whatever you had going on at the time. And keep in mind, to put it into context, at the time, I think you just had a baby who's probably like now going to college. She's gonna
be 12 in a couple of months. She just dyed part of her hair blue.
Oh, get out! Oh, you're at that phase. Were you able to say anything about it to her?
Yeah, well, I was the one really that facilitated it.
Well, that's just being a good dad. Well, and that's the thing too. No matter what anybody else has to say about you, the first thing out of their mouth is always, man, he's one of the most terrific fathers of all time, which I think is, above all else, is important. But the thing that I concluded about you or other people was, you didn't come to the party when me and you were having interactions and had issues with each other. You didn't come into that with anger towards me. It had a lot to do with other things. And I told Bobby, the thing that I would ask Michael more than anything, after knowing, about the history of you and the band and whatnot, would be, you were 19 when you got into the Misfits, and you were around a lot of people that a lot of people have told me a lot of stuff about. And I feel like, or do you feel like, I should say, that it fucked with your head going forward into other issues to have that opportunity, but feel like nobody really knows the truth about what's going on here?
Of course it did. I don't think that anybody has ever summed up the situation in so few words and so clearly. I was just a kid, man, just like and all those people, I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to be in a band. And it was such a big world, and it was a grown-up world, and I was still trying to make sense of what happened to me in high school. You know what I'm saying? To catch up to all that, and here I am in this amazing world, but overwhelming, and it was So when it got to the after bit of that, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, for sure. the way I looked at it was, and it's with anybody who has any kind of clout, by the way, I felt like, man, this guy went literally his whole life, like your young adulthood and everything like that, with somebody wanting something from him or somebody wanting him to be something. You know, do you think that's accurate?
I think that is accurate. Absolutely. And it's one thing that I've noticed as I've gotten older is always having eyes on me too, always being judged or always being compared or always being watched does something to you. And I was always like, you know, thought that I was not above it, but you know, it's like cigarettes. When you start smoking cigarettes, like, oh, I'm not going to get addicted to, you know, these things. That's just, you know, what they say. But yeah, all of those things that came with being who I am, who I was in the Misfits, definitely had a psychological impact on me in a huge way. And you know, it's hard to sit down with somebody, anybody, you know, someone say, "Oh man, what's the matter?" What's the matter? Like, how do I explain to you what the, you know, what's on my mind?
Right.
So for a lot of years, I tumbled. I look back on it and I tumbled through life.
Well, I mean, I think that's totally forgivable, especially now. I feel like above all, you're a family man. You're a new guy, and you have other things on your mind. You have more opinions than just like, hey, remember me? I was in a band back in the day. You have, I mean, shit, man. Of all the people who've been the Misfits, you've been more active than most people in creating new music, always having like a fresh lineup, a fresh tour, a new project, whether it's the Marky Ramone Blitzkrieg or any other thing that you did. I mean, the way I looked at it was, by the time I got to you, it didn't matter what I had to say, because in your head, you may have been thinking that, oh, this is another guy trying to use me or put me in a bad position, or trying to put me in a position where me and Jerry, like his movie will be like, oh, me and Jerry talking shit, and everybody, including the guys in your band, all the word that everyone kept using was Jerry Bash Fest. Like, is your movie just a Jerry Bash Fest? And I couldn't tell them in enough words, I have no interest in doing that. And everyone's like, sure you don't. We all want to talk shit about Jerry. And I'm like, oh, dude. I said, I invited Jerry to be in the movie. I don't give a shit about Jerry. And they're just like, you just want to talk shit about Jerry, and you're trying to get Michael in a bad position. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. And they're like, well, you know, then you're trying to say that Mike Hideous was better than Michael. And I'm like, I think that
just trying to tell a story.
The crazy thing about the Misfits, and I hope that you could expound on this, is you have three singers. You have Glenn Danzig, you have Michale Graves, and you have Mike Hideous. They each had very different roles in the band, and I don't think, and especially in punk rock, you can't find three human beings more different than each other who took radically different paths. And your path was very much like the fuck it, DIY, I'm going to go out, I'm going to play my music, I don't give a shit type of path. And the fact that you decided to challenge yourself and make it more difficult by being like, and I'm also a conservative.
Oh, man. Shoot yourself in the foot.
Regular music isn't enough. The music industry isn't difficult enough. I also think Trump is awesome.
I was going to say, what's it like being a contrarian of a contrarian? I mean, isn't the punk rock is supposed to be a contrarian thing, and then you're a contrarian to the contrarian? Is that like a double negative?
I just try to be myself.
I mean, like if you go back to that video, we go back to the Daily Show video. It's funny because they talk about Enrique. You know, I mean, that long ago, they talked about Enrique, you know, like a black guy joining a white supremacy movement.
Oh, yeah.
You
white supremacy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have the literal, the personification of Chappelle's show. You know, that what's the character? Anyway, that Bigsby.
Yeah.
That guy is living, you know, as Enrique Tarrio. just running the Proud Boys, this white supremacist organization. I mean,
Oh, guys,
look at us.
Same playbook back then. It was the same playbook back then.
It was.
Yeah.
100%.
Can both of you guys promise me right now? Don't tell my black girlfriend I'm in a white supremacist organization.
I'll try. Let's not go into that thing where we up each other. We
You're
one
a
up each other.
Terrible racist. Paul is terrible.
Well, by the way,
Not
have
good
you
at it.
seen the Michael Graves is a racist armbands that are being sold?
Are you serious?
I did when I was doing research, Michael, and I don't want to, alarm you too much. And it's horrible because I'm a victim of this too, man.
Yeah.
But when you start Googling your name, it like Google is trying to fill it in. Michael Graves is a racist. It's trying to fill it in as you're typing in Michael Graves. It's fucked up. Crazy, man.
Dude.
It's a badge of honor because I've never believed that I was a very, important person. I do believe I'm important in some people's lives. Again, I hear profound stories about how my music, how my art, how my work has touched people. That's a beautiful thing. That's a gift from God. That's amazing. I take that very seriously.
No homo, but you have a great voice. Like it's fucking awesome. I really love it. Actually, it's an awesome voice, man, for real. And
knowing that I had to that I was taken off Facebook and I was taken off Twitter and I was taken off all of these things and now Google and the algorithms are turning me or continue to turn me into this monster. That means that I have at least some sort of voice in this culture war, in this whole thing that we're involved in. And that motivates me to continue what I do and to continue to keep myself healthy and strong and to speak out and do what I do because obviously I'm that important.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is you really are that important to certain people, and
of course
this is what I didn't understand until I worked with Hideous. He did 2 tours with the Misfits. He never recorded an album.
That doesn't even count. Sorry.
Yeah, people still remember those 2 tours from him. And people from South America write him every year, and I love you, you're the best, blah, blah, blah.
Man.
So you were in that band for years and years touring the world, and then on your own went out and toured the world. And that's shit, dude. I'll tell you a quick story. First time I met you. Your lineup. I know everything about this fucking lineup now. It was Quincy Smash playing drums. Jason Trioxin, the late Jason Trioxin playing guitar, and JV Bastard playing bass. You were at Bloomfield Ave Cafe in Montclair, across from where I worked at Cafe Sounds. And my friend said, do you want to see Michael Graves? I said, I know some of the Misfits stuff, but I don't know, maybe. I walked across the street, and you fucking made me a believer that day. And I was probably like 20 years old, 21 years old. And I saw that shit in a little club. It wasn't like, it's 10 billion people in a stadium in Sweden or something. It was a little-ass club. And afterwards, I went up to you, I shook your hand. You gave me the fucking time of day, and we talked for about 20 minutes about the West Memphis 3. And the other thing that we talked about, which I told Bobby the other day, you're from Dumont, New Jersey. There's one other guy who's famous from being from Dumont, New Jersey. And do we know who that is?
Oh, man, what is this?
I'm going to look him up right now.
It's the rapper guy.
No.
No.
The Iceman,
the
Richard
Iceman.
Kuklinski.
Right.
The
Iceman.
And I said, dude, what do you know about the Iceman? That was the first thing I had to say to you. And we bullshitted for like 20 minutes.
His niece worked for my mother.
No.
There he is. Yeah,
the Iceman's niece worked for your mom?
Oh, my God, that's awesome.
When he was in jail or after he was in jail?
He was in Aries. Hell yeah.
I think afterwards. I remember the day that he got arrested. It was right on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah.
From where I lived. I remember seeing the police cars and seeing the road blocked off and everything.
Now,
not much happens in the small town of Dumont, so now we're down. It's like, what?
If you know Dumont, it's very out of the way. Like, it's not. So to have a horde of FBI and cops show up and arrest the biggest guy on the block for like killing 300 people is that's something.
Right, and this was 30 years ago too. So it was, we were.
Wow, you remember that?
I remember it absolutely.
I'll tell you another story about how the Iceman is related to the Misfits. So Steve Zing from Sam Hain. There definitely should be. But Steve Zing from Sam Hain, who plays bass for Danzig right now.
Yeah.
So Steve Zing used to work in the ice cream truck that Mr. Softy drove around Lodi and killed people in when he was 10 years old. And he's never told anybody that publicly, as far as I know. But he said, I was at his house talking to him for some reason. Yeah. And he was going through the Iceman book. And I said, I read that. That's a great book. And he goes, dude. And he shows me a picture of the ice cream truck with the little red bench. He goes, I used to sit on that little red bench. I had no idea who this guy was until I started reading this book. And I was like,
that's crazy.
Dude, it's nuts. So everybody else, all the rappers out there who say, kill a motherfucker like it ain't no thing, the guys from the Misfits used to chill with serial killers in their youth. So there's nothing more badass than that. You can't top that if you're trying to outman somebody else. Yeah, man, but shit. I mean, when I heard you join the Proud Boys, that was another thing where I was like, I wasn't surprised because I knew you were conservative. And that's the other thing. If people think there's no conservatives in punk rock, why don't you call all of their accountants on April 14th and ask them how conservative they are? Call Fat Mike's accountant when he's doing his taxes and say, hey, is this guy extra charitable? Does he go to TurboTax? No, he saves every penny he possibly can on April 14th.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, I don't want to out anybody, but I'll tell you this, Kenny Kayafa kicked me out of his house once because Glenn Beck was coming on, and he said, you're not going to have me miss Glenn Beck. And that's the brother of the guy who's the guys who are in the Misfits. And I was like, oh, shit, Kenny, all right. Because at first I thought he was kidding. I'm like, yeah, sure, man, I'll leave. And he's like, no, get the fuck out of my house. Yeah, sure.
That's a question. I mean, so what about your bandmates in the Misfits? Do you think that they were kind of conservative leaning or what?
Yeah, I do. I definitely, I know that Jerry was, and obviously Kenny, because again, they were raised Catholic. They were, and they
probably didn't really believe in abortion.
Well, I think that they were much more, real liberals than what people think that liberals are now. But I mean, whatever the case, the real tragedy is, for people ask me, why don't you get, why don't you work with Doyle or perhaps, work with Jerry? But when you have the stink on you, right? When you're canceled, and in my situation in particular, you can't bring me into your organization because there's going to be repercussions all of a sudden, right? You're not going to. So even if Doyle did want to write a song with me or walk out on a stage with me, he couldn't because it would all come down on him.
That's fucked up. Why don't we start a Proud Boys band?
Sure, I'll play the tambourine.
I mean, have you thought about that at all? Michael, I mean, maybe we could assemble a band somehow. When I say we, I'm just going to be the manager, okay? But I think that we should...
I need a good manager.
Yeah.
You know who you're talking to? Do you think he hasn't gotten enough shit for replacing Danzig? Now you're going to be like, hey, put him in a Fred Perry and put him in the front of the room where people could throw bottles at him.
Come on, man. There needs to be a Proud Boy band, all right? And I'm saying it right here and right now. Listen, you Proud Boys, this is a call to start a band, okay? Now
there's a lot of guys out there. There's a lot of guys out there. I see on some of the channels making
and Michael, you could create stuff over the internet, right? You guys could write your own tracks over the internet, share them, and then make the song all in your own houses, right? Or whatever, in your own setups, your own studios, right? It's become
much easier nowadays.
It's become like that. So
sure.
It's a very real thing. If you put the call out there and you said there's somebody out there that plays bass, we need a bassist, another guitarist, right? A drummer. Okay. You're going to be guitar and singer, right? Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
I'll be honest with you. Assembling a band, getting a bunch of guys together that can play, that want to play, that's the easy. I mean, really, that is the easy part.
You can just play at Westfest and shit, and play at different stuff or whatever at first, and then you get you do it for fun, and then it catches on, and then it becomes something real, because then you guys are gonna come up with some cool song. Come on, man, and then we can always
You know what I really wanted? I like George Washington. I just want to stay here on my little farm and just never be heard from again.
Oh man, come on,
that's what I want.
Isn't it crazy that you get this much shit for saying, I want to be left alone?
Or saying, I just support the president. I support the president. Are you serious?
Well, here's the thing.
And you'd be called a racist and God.
I wasn't shocked when Michael came out as a Proud Boy because I knew his conservative views. But I'll tell you exactly what I said to people. And I think I even posted this somewhere online at some point. I said something like, me and Michael haven't always had the best relationship in the world. But goddamn if it didn't take balls for him to do that. And I can't not respect you. For even at my maddest at you, I would have to look back. And not to mention the weird overlap coincidence. I helped start the Proud Boys. I was at the first meetup ever. And now I'm like, shit, Michael's in the fucking... It's like next I'm going to have Hideous giving me punches and naming cereals and shit like that. And I was like... God.
Hey, listen. You guys are both in New Jersey, and you. Are
you still in Jersey?
I'm in the mount. I'm up in New York State in the Catskills.
Oh, sorry. You're in the general vicinity. I mean, you guys. I don't know what's going on up there with the whole chapter and stuff like that. I mean, I did a podcast with Gavin McInnes, and at his home, somewhere in New York, on the outskirts of the city, and he basically told me that the club is non-existent there in the whole tri-state area. It's kind of weird, man. What the hell's going on? That's where it started. You guys...
well, up here, I was connected to the upstate New York chapter and went to a meeting, hung out with a couple of the guys that came over. And then I went out on tour and stuff, so I didn't make a lot of the meetings. I don't know.
Listen. You are in the Palm Beach chapter. You went to Pope's house, and you got your second right there. So
I feel much more part of the Palm Beach chapter.
I'm actually the president. I'm the president of Palm Beach. So please. I
couldn't wait for you anymore that night, dude. I had to get going.
Oh yeah.
And by the way,
yeah.
So I'm doing my second. I tell these fucking guys, I go, listen, I don't care how hard you hit me, but just watch my ribs. Just
Oh, it happened to me. That happened to me.
Because I said, listen, because I'm in the middle of a tour. I have to be able to sing.
Oh my God.
You can tune me up if you want, man. And what do you think happened?
I know what happened now. Oh my God.
On your ribs.
Yeah. Somebody broke my ribs.
We got a guy in the NYC chapter named Pike who used to play defensive line for the Steelers. This guy he's a walking cloud. And it's hysterical to see the look on the new guys' faces. We're like, okay, you're going to get your second. We're like, hype. And the crowd just parts as he goes. He looks like Bam Bam Bigelow. And the crowd just parts. And he walks up and just starts overhand punching. And they're screaming like, by the way, Count Chocula was definitely one of your five, wasn't it?
I think it was. I think it might have been my last one.
I know it was.
Yeah.
It couldn't have not been. It wouldn't have been right if it wasn't Kevin.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't even thinking about that. It had to. It would have to be. Jesus.
Well, here's the thing, and this is where I think we find a lot of common ground with each other. I feel like where you're at with the Proud Boy thing and, why don't you just go back on the whole thing after, people shitting on you and taking all this crap. The way I always felt about it was, I'm not doing anything wrong.
That's right.
This isn't a racist, fascist, whatever they say, which is why when I started running the website, I took every media thing I could because I just wanted to say to people, ask me whatever you want. I'm an open book. Right. We are not men of mystery. If you ask me what I think about something, I'll fucking tell you. Yep. And it's one of those things, man. It sucked. I don't want to, this isn't a drama fucking episode for sure. But I watched Loki talk about why he did what he did and left because, he's a Proud Boy. And the thing that disappointed me the most about his spiel was he was like, well, whether they're a fascist group or a white supremacist group or not, or I don't know. It's like, no, how about this? No. Right. How about you say no? Because you know the truth. And I know that he knows the truth. And it drove me up the wall because I like Loki. I haven't talked to him in forever, but, if we saw each other tomorrow, there'd be no issues. But it's one of those things like, Loki, this guy, Michael, and he's going on about this is how I eat and this is how I make my living. And I'm like, exactly. This guy who helped feed you for all these years is going through some shit. And people are turning to you going, well, what does this make you? Say, the Proud Boys are not a white supremacist group. Michael would have nothing to do with a white supremacist group because I've known everyone around you for so long that not one of them is a white supremacist.
I know. Why can't more people have the balls to say that? God.
Because a lot of people that are stuck in the internet universe, in the Facebook, Twitter, that's where you live, that's where all of these social things are happening, that then you foster these things in that internet life that then you bring out into reality. In our case, you foster this life and all these things and all these people that are on your Facebook or your Twitter or your Instagram, and then then they show up at a show or whatever the case. When all of that becomes compromised, it might be taken away, it might become difficult. You might actually have to think out of the box and say something for real, or actually take a stand on something that actually has real consequences. Men go, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want the girls to like me. I want I want to continue this meme. I want to continue this avatar that I've created. But
it's nothing. It's just emptiness and nothing. Means zero.
I almost want to say, listen, whether it's, one of your guys or somebody else who just is like, hey, I know what you're about, but other people think this. It's almost like I would grab Loki by the face and say, dude, if somebody said something that you were something that was unforgivable, like Loki raped someone or robbed a bank or, whatever, and we all knew it wasn't true, would you want me to fire you because I go, hey, man, perception's reality. Right. I guess this is what people think of you. And at this point, it's like, well, people are saying, Michael's racist or Michael's this or Michael's that. And me.
Or he went to hockey camp in Canada.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
But I know the actual story.
I'm telling you, it's amazing the way that life works, the way that God works. So check it out.
I know your side of the story, but go on.
I've played hockey, all my life. I love the sport. One of the things that I love to do on my off time from touring was to play ice hockey, right? So I was making money when I was in the Misfits, so I had the opportunity to do things like travel to Canada and play hockey. So there was a gap in between tours, and I said, I'm going to go out to the Banff Mountains. I'm going to do some hiking. I'm going to go to this hockey camp for 2 weeks, and I'm going to keep myself in shape. I'm going to play some hockey at a high level. It's going to be awesome. I've never done anything like that. Okay. So I booked this thing, and I get a call from somebody in the Misfits, and they say, well, we're going to go to South America for however long it's going to be. And it's these dates. And it's these dates, yeah. And I got pissed. And I was like, you guys have to tell me when you're going to plan these things, because now I'm going to lose all this money. And I was totally looking forward to this whole thing. You guys suck. I hate you. So I called Jerry and I called Kenny, and nobody picked up their phone, and I freaked out, and I cursed a lot, and I said those things. I said, this is bullshit. I'm part of this band. If you're gonna plan something, just call me and say, hey man, is it cool if we go away from April 1st to whenever? Yeah, that's good. Or hey, maybe can we change that? Just include me in the process. So I called both of them. I left a message, and I didn't hear anything back. And then I think it was a couple of days later, Chud calls me, and he goes, hey, It just came from rehearsal, and Mike Hideous was there, and he was jamming the songs. Something about he's going to be in the band. I was like, oh yeah? So I called Jerry and Kenny. Nobody picked up their phone, and I left a message saying, listen, if you think I'm so replaceable, that I'm just this, you can just go out on the street and find somebody like me. If I'm so replaceable, and you can have Mike Hideous just come in and do what I do, then screw you. So they took that as all right, we're gonna continue to do this. Now, what was happening behind the scenes was obviously I was continuing to talk to Chud, and I continued to talk to Doyle, who was my best friend. We were inseparable, as well as Frankie Vitello, who was Doyle's guitar tech, who I went to high school with. I knew him all my life. He took my sister to the prom. So I was talking to them on the side, obviously, and they were just like, "Oh man, this is terrible. This is horrible. What are we gonna do?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What are you gonna do? We're 75% of the band. Just say something, because then it became what Mike Hideous is going and screw Michale Graves." And I said, all you have to do is not get on the plane. All you have to do is just not show up for practice. Why are you showing up for practice? Oh man, we're not going to get on the plane, Doyle says, and Chud and Frankie. Oh, we're not going to do it. We're going to really show them. We're just waiting. I'm like, all right. And then, so what do you think happened? Of course, they all get on the plane and they go. Meanwhile, all of this is happening. And everything that Mike Hideous has said about what was happening behind the scenes is true. Jerry and Kenny weren't telling Mike what was actually happening with me. They were just saying that, oh, Michael, whatever, he wants to go to hockey camp. He doesn't want to be in the band. He can't focus. Whatever they were saying, and giving Mike this very disingenuous reality. They were lying to him about what was happening, and it was all very messed up and wrong. So all those guys went obviously to South America, and every night I was on the phone with Chud. Every night I was on the phone with Doyle, and every night I was on the phone with Frankie, hearing about what was happening, and it was a tragedy for everybody. It was horrible.
It sucked for everybody, including Mike, and
in the worst way.
Yeah, because then he had this sense of, shit, this is my big break and all this other shit. He cancels all his life, and then he gets screwed. By the way, do you know how they fired Mike and told him that you were back in the band?
I don't know.
He called Jerry to say, hey, I'm coming to rehearsal, but I'm going to be a little late. And the first thing Jerry said to him was, he goes, oh, haven't you heard? And he goes, what? He goes, yeah, you're not in the band anymore. So the Misfits style of management and communication was, let's say, lacking. Because they don't even tell their lead singer when they're in the band or not in the band. They don't call anybody back.
That is essentially what has been wrong with at least what was wrong with my era of the band. There was nobody that had the power to go, wait a second, what are you doing? Like, you can't make that decision. Like, no, you can't, this can't happen. You can, Mike Hideous really was, what a terrible situation. He cut his hair, he packed up his apartment, he changed his whole life. That was looking over here. He went, okay, I trust you. Boom. And he said, all right, let's do this. And then out of the clear blue friggin' sky, no.
For people who don't know, by the way, when he said, when Michael said that Hideous cut his hair, the story behind that is Mike is a cancer survivor, and they gave him like a 10% chance of survival. And when he survived, he grew his hair down to the middle of his ass and said, I'll never cut my hair again, because he was bald for like 2 or 3 years. And the guy said, oh, well, we don't like your hair being that long. Cut it like this. And he was like, well, you don't understand. Like, this is my thing. So I really have to know I'm in this band. And they go, you are the new singer. We expect this from you. Cut your hair. He cut his hair, and he was like devastated that he did that. And
Wow.
I want to show them, because their big thing was they kept saying, like, well, Graves wasn't committed. And he was like, well, then if that's what you need, I'll show you that I'm the most committed guy there's ever been. And it, by the way, did you also know they wanted to dress him up as you?
Yes.
And how fucking nuts is that?
So
Crazy.
It sounds to me like all he did, he was just like used in this whole ploy, this whole power move ploy. Because I do believe on some kind of level that everybody is replaceable in like any organization. You know, I mean,
right.
You just are like, there's nothing promised to you. Even if you started the company, you know, I'm talking about like me, for instance, somebody could replace me. It happens all the time in business. You always have to know that. And you can't take anything for granted, but
You got to think of like a sports team, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you got a great quarterback, and sure you can replace that quarterback, and
yeah.
it's hard to replace Phil Simms. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to replace a Joe Montana. And I'm not saying that I'm Phil Simms or Joe
Dude,
Montana.
you are. No, you are. You were great. You were a great replacement, man. Like when, you know, I believe when Glenn Danzig went and did his own thing, and then they had the reincarnation of the Misfits. You know, you were a great addition, and almost like it could be something else. It could have been a different band, right? I mean, I think, and listen, by the way, this thought was actually implanted in my brain from Pawl. So anyway, right?
Well,
I think Mike Hideous.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that Mike Hideous would have done a spectacular job fronting that band. I think as well that even Zoli, when Zoli from Ignite was standing
briefly
in for me, he had a tremendous voice. He might not have led as well as Mike Hideous did, but the main part of that story is the disingenuous, you know, what was done to Mike. It wasn't a good thing.
I was going to say, to bring this around to what we were discussing earlier about getting your head fucked with at a high level, because I feel like I've been there too, which is what kind of made me break out and be like, oh, I kind of get these guys. That fucked with Mike's head too. So the issues, I mean, shit, man, I haven't talked to Hideous in 10 years, and we had a horrible falling out. But the problem is, Mike got fucked with, and that's why I never knew what fear of success meant until I met Mike Hideous. I was just like, what do you mean? You're afraid you're going to make money and pay your rent? Like, what the fuck does that mean? And then when I met Mike, I realized, like, no, he's afraid to get something good for himself because he's afraid it'll all fall apart. People are going to judge him. People are going to say he sucks. He's not the real whatever. He's not this. And I mean, dude, you have no idea how much it meant to him to be in that band when we went over Kenny's house for like just a visit at one point with and Tank was there, who I loved to death. Who, by the way, I don't know if you saw the pictures. Do you know Tank was at the Proud Boy magazine launch party, and I got him to play Lord Humongous?
That's fantastic. I knew that he was doing the Lord Humongous thing. I have his business card.
Yes, me too. He's awesome. But
all of them. I have all his business cards.
The big thing that I saw in Mike's eyes, and you had to see this guy go into a trance like the fucking Manchurian Candidate, stare Kenny in the eye at some point in like a very jovial conversation, and he went, Kenny, I was the singer for that band. I was an official singer for that band. Tell me I was a singer. And Kenny like was taken aback and went, yeah, man, yeah, you were the singer for the band. He goes, I wasn't a replacement. I wasn't a filler. I was the singer for the months that I was the singer. You can't take that from me. And I was like, oh, this means the world to Mike. And I don't think it means anything. Nothing means anything like that to anybody else than it does to Mike. But it brings us to, like, in life, whether you're a conservative and people are shitting on you online, it almost, you know, to get into a little bit like the Capitol Hill stuff that happened, it's like when it happened, I thought to myself, what did you expect to happen? You've been spinning on these people for over a year, and then you've been telling these people that they're worthless, they should be killed, they're Nazis, they're racist, they're this, and they've been watching you guys burn and pillage everything with impunity and getting off repeatedly. So they must have, and it was a stupid idea, by the way, but the stupid thought that they had was, well, it must be okay for us to do this too, because this is what we do, and they call us scumbags, they want us dead. And I mean, do you feel that way? Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I definitely sensed all of that with a lot of people. And knowing all of what you just said, that is how the whole, that's how it became such a crazy mob, because what was behind all of the frontline instigators, if you will, the hardline instigators that were attacking the police and breaking windows, what was behind that was then all of the people that are saying, yeah, it is our time. Yeah, let's do this. We're angry too. For me, it was, it made me feel sad because there were so many people at that event, the 5th and the 6th. There were so many good people, and there were some bad people, and some, and some people did some
bad. Some people did some bad things.
Bad things.
Oh my God, incest Omar. Oh, sorry.
But it really was a victory that was taken away from our movement in a lot of ways. It feels like we stepped into a trap that was obviously exacerbated in a huge way, and used. What I meant to say was it was used against us, and puffed up in the media, and
This is also why people, especially conservatives, have to realize something very important. The truth is important, and principles are important. You can't just say, I'm on team conservative, so let's just follow the guy in the fucking Viking helmet or whatever. When you see a retard in your movement, when you see a total douchebag trying to be the leader, and it's always the guys who are the fucking worst, who talk the loudest, think about it. Call them out. Is that really the guy you want to follow? Because everyone I saw who did something really stupid that day, I thought, like, this is the worst of the worst. I'm watching guys like Baked Alaska. I'm like, guy sucks. He's like a Nazi guy. Like, why is he the
worst
guy?
Kids in class, right? Like the worst kids in class.
And the guys who just want to get more likes on their live stream or whatever, because at the end of the day, what did you accomplish? You took fucking selfies and you live streamed yourself like a little prima donna, got nothing done, and within hours, any results that we wanted done were undone. So congratulations. You fucked it, and you fucked it up for the rest of us. Because good dudes who wouldn't do something like that, like the 3 guys here, now have to take heat from every liberal we know of, I'm
not trying to incriminate myself, but I'm not going, I'll just take myself out of that, what you said right there. But I would like to stick up for my brothers who, were arrested. And I would like to say, that you guys are the shit. And, I hope you're all exonerated for anything.
There's people who are arrested for sure who did nothing wrong. There's people like Rufio Panman, who is one of the fucking best guys. This is something that I don't know if Rufio's talked about at length, but I interviewed him a few times, and they fucking shut down that motherfucker's wedding. You know that? Mm-hmm. That he was getting married, and a week before he was going to get married, Antifa went to whatever hall that he was going to get married at, and literally were like, why are you having Nazi weddings and all this other shit, until they basically did what they always do. People went, I'm confused. I don't know what this is all about, so we're just not going to have you. Which is why, Yeah,
it's fucked up.
I was with Rufio on the 5th. I spent some time with him, and there was no big operation.
You were there too?
If anyone thinks, they see all these, they see Enrique was arrested, and they see, Biggs and everybody, they think that, everyone was getting around with the Proud Boys, and we got all our papers, and we planned this big operation, and Rufio had all these ideas, and Enrique was going to lead it, and, Biggs, well, he's always starting trouble.
It's ridiculous.
He's going to be in there laughing and come on, man. That is so far from the truth.
Utterly preposterous.
I've been around
on the night of the night of the 5th when Enrique got out of jail. He took a car from the jail where they picked him up over to the hotel that he was supposed to be staying at. Some folks were staying at. Funny that Sullivan kid was in the same hotel. And when Enrique walked in there, immediately he was kicked out. And so again, what that means is the police had contacted all the hotels. All the hotels were told that if Enrique Torres shows up, Tario shows up, you throw him out.
Right. And,
wow.
And that's the thing, man. It's one thing for somebody to hate you because of who you are, but it's like how we're talking about all the stuff that's been going on with you since you've come out as a Proud Boy. Whether it's a band member leaving or a friend who won't talk to you or whatever, it's like, if you don't like Michael, then don't like Michael. If you don't like Paul or Bobby, don't like us. That's fine. But don't say, well, I don't like him because he's racist. Because guess what?
Right.
I can name about 50 reasons not to like me. Being fat is in the top 5. But being racist is not on my list. Like, there's plenty of reasons you could go, Paul gets under my skin, I don't like him, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not a racist. So if you're going to hate me, don't hate me over a lie, and don't support the lie by being like, well, I don't know what all this is about. Maybe if you like Trump, you are a Nazi. Because that's what's leading to the problems. Because what you're doing is you're taking a fake fucking narrative and you're rubbing it in all of our faces. And I'll tell you this, to expand on what Michael said. I've been a Proud Boy since day one, Tommy's Tavern, Brooklyn, New York. I've been a fucking Proud Boy. We are not organized in any way, shape, or form. There is no master plan, which it always makes me laugh when I get interviewed by people and they're like, so what are your plans for the future? I'm like, I guess we're going to go to a bar next month and a bunch of guys are going to drink and we're going to talk shit about our girlfriends or something. And they can't wrap their head around like that's all it is. Like a bunch of guys who just go, hey, I want to say it's okay to be a patriot. I want to join a club. When we say Western chauvinist, we don't mean white. It means Western civilization. In other words, the culture of ideas, the civilization of opinions, debate, and ideas and truth. That's what America brought to the fucking world, and we think that's a good thing. We don't think we should go, but we get that you don't get what it is, so because you don't get it, we're just going to hide in the fucking shadows. I think that's bullshit, and I'm Sicilian, which means I dig my fucking heels in when people push back on me and say, like, hey, over this lie, you should shrink back and get away from all that. I go, no, fuck you. It's a lie. It's a lie. I know what I'm about. I know what this whole thing's about. And by the way, the fact that Michale Graves made peace with a Sicilian should be nominated for a Nobel fucking Peace Prize. That an Italian guy fucking actually went, God damn it, I love you, dude. Fuck you. Crying on a Saturday Night's a great song. I don't know what the fuck.
Oh, yeah, I love it. So, I really love it.
Well, and that's another thing about Michael that people don't understand. And Michael, man, I know this shit must be fucking with you on some personal level, but here's the fucking truth. The fact is, people can hate your politics. They can hate you. They can hate for whatever dumbass reason they might have. But the thing is, when you play Descending Angel on acoustic guitar, and this is the thing, you're fucking undeniable. You're undeniable. You have a fucking voice. And it's my favorite recordings of yours are the acoustic ones because they're so stripped down. And it's this guy who stepped away from the Misfits. He doesn't have all the pomp and Misfits shit around him. And now it's like, well, what can he do? And what he could do is fucking crush it on his songs that he fucking wrote for that band, and you could listen to them in a whole other context, and no one, and remember this, dude, this is from my fucking heart, no one could ever take that shit away from you, no matter how hard they try, and they are fucking trying.
Thank you, Paul. That means a lot to me.
Brother, that belongs to you forever, man.
Can I pop in here? Okay, you know what? Can I ask you a question, Michael, about writing music, writing lyrics? I've interviewed a lot of musicians or songwriters, and what I always seem to, when I ask about, like, if there's like a song I really, really like and I'm like talking about like what it means, it's always the same thing. They're like, you interpret it however you want to interpret it or whatever. There's nothing ever like real meaning to it. Is that kind of how you do it? Is like wordplay kind of thing also?
I think in some instances, sure, but there's always some sort of emotional anchor. There has to be. It always comes from somewhere. And in my experience, sometimes there's songs that it didn't make sense to me for years. Somebody would ask me, well, what's the song about? Interpret this song. I'm not sure. I don't know. Where now, as I've gotten into a different season in my life, I understand some of those songs much better than I did even when I wrote them. And yeah, I know there's some artists that it's almost like automatic writing, where they'll just spill out. And some of my compositions have been like that. Fiend Without a Face, for example, is kind of an automatic sort of writing where it's just much more abstract and there's just a lot of colors thrown in.
What was it like? What was it like during the writing process of Famous Monster album, Famous Monsters?
I loved writing for Famous Monsters because by the time the band got to Famous Monsters, we were interacting differently with each other as writing partners. We knew where everybody's strengths were, and it was at a good time in the band. So we respected those strengths. So it was the time where, for example, Jerry would come with music and lyrics a lot, and the music was never a problem because the boys would always figure it out. The brothers would always work it out, and Chud was always great with cuts and everything. My thing was lyrics. What are we going to say? What kind of words are we going to say? And so I was able to really go in there and say, yeah, I think that there's a little bit too much corn there. Let's just move that. I rewrote this part. Let's move this section. Let's repeat this here. And so that's why, again, Famous Monsters was such a different album as well. It was much more of a mature album, and it was much more of an exciting, record to write. American Psycho, there was a lot of, this is mine, and we can't change that. What are you, crazy? This is perfect. Famous Monsters was different.
I have a question I think Misfits fans have all been kind of raging and debating over for years about the writing of some of those songs. Are some of those songs, particularly when you listen to the lyrics on like Dig Up Her Bones, is it about Christianity?
There's a ton of Christianity in my music. Ton of Christianity. Even
Point me to the sky above. I can't get there on my own is like a common Christian thing that Christians tell you can't do this on your own and blah, blah, blah. And when I heard that, I remember thinking like, oh, this is about finding Jesus.
Dude, it's just about whatever your interpretation is. It's just like I said, it's wordplay.
Nowadays, when I look back, when I was writing, for example, when I was writing Dig Up Her Bones, I wouldn't have interpreted it like that. But now as I look back on my life and, the place that I create from, there's certainly a lot of those indications that are there that are steeped in Christianity, for sure.
Yeah. Is Dr. Chud a complete scumbucket for copywriting the name Graves for the band?
He's a complete scumbucket for a lot of reasons. We can definitely add that one to the list.
I have Chud stories.
He really is. He is one of the worst humans ever. God bless him.
Is it true? God bless him. Dave, I have no fucking problem with you. Even though, by the way, if you want to talk about conservatives, that is one guy in the Misfits who is not, because that motherfucker would pop up in my DMs and pop up in my comments on Facebook anytime I said something about Trump. And he'd be like, how dare you? He's a scumbag. He's as woke as they come.
He's as woke as they come, and he's as dumb as they get.
And now, how ugly are the chicks Uncle Chud fucks?
Thank you. That's where I was coming at.
I got a great ugly chick
story.
We were on tour with Megadeth, right? Dave Mustaine has seen a lot in his day. And we were, I don't know where we were. We were outside somewhere. I was standing outside the bus, and Dave Mustaine walks up to me. And I was standing there with Doyle too. He walks up and he goes, man, I've seen a lot of things. I'm paraphrasing. He's like, man, I've seen a lot of things in my life. I've seen a lot of women, but that woman or whatever it was that your drummer just walked away with was the ugliest girl I have ever seen in my life. And so that's the level of chud chicks, like the horrible.
I heard stories about him doing things under the rafters during the intro when they were bringing Mike out on the chain and stuff like that, where he'd be under there with like a 300-pounder. And what I heard
debauchery.
was oh my God, $3 bills. I couldn't do it. He's more man than me. But I heard that his whole philosophy is, I like him fat, I like him old, and I like him ugly, because he doesn't have to try. He doesn't have to like talk to him or be nice. He can just be like, come on, let's go. Let's do it. How come nobody's Me Too Chud? Matter of fact, this is a bombshell, but I was hooking up with a girl that Chud used to hook up with, and she was really cute. And when I found out she used to hook up with Chud, I literally was like, what's wrong with you? What the fuck have you been through in your life? Like, and she was the nicest person ever. And I was like, Chud, Dr. Chud from the Misfits. They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, you're not his type. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, nothing. Don't worry about it. Like, you're actually kind of cute. And, okay, cool. But I've heard nothing but like Chud was here's the thing with the guys, everyone who's ever been in the Misfits, by the way, they each have their own weird mental thing. And it's not even close to being the other guy's mental thing. So Chud would have been like the weird sexual animal in the group. Jerry is the talker. He's the kind of guy who, like, if you say, hey, Jerry, what time is it? He'll be like, well, in Japan right now, it's actually 12 p.m. But let me tell you. And he'll go out. And by the end of it, the question still won't be answered. As Mike put it, if he was right, because, oh, my God, we have so much shit we can talk about. There was one time in history when all three singers from the Misfits were in the same place at the same time. Do you know when that was? Do you have any
Chiller Theater?
Thought?
Was it Chiller Theater?
No, Danzig wasn't there.
Oh,
nope.
It had to have been in Sayreville. At the
Starland Ballroom.
Starland.
That was the first time that Mike saw Chud or Doyle for 12 years, and Mike didn't know how they were going to react, and he was quivering, thinking about Doyle not liking him, or he's like, I've said some things about Doyle, man, and I shouldn't have said them, and he's not that bad of a guy. And I'm going, I'm like, well, what's he going to do, man? If he doesn't like, he doesn't like. He goes, you don't understand. Jerry will talk to me, yell at me, and threaten to sue me. Doyle doesn't talk or ask questions; he just hits. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And Doyle saw him, and Doyle was wearing the hoodie, didn't have the makeup on, and sees him, and their eyes meet, and he just goes, Mike? And Mike quivered like, oh God, like he's about to fucking unleash hell on me. And Doyle gave him the biggest bear hug ever. It was like, dude, I heard you had because it's the other thing a lot of people don't know. When we were doing American Nightmare, Mike was re-diagnosed with cancer. So he gave him a big hug. He's like, I heard you were sick again. Are you all right? And he couldn't have been a nicer, gentler human being in that time. But shit, man, that day at Starland, I was so pumped because I was literally like, dude, we got all three members of the Misfits in the same room. We got to get a picture with just you guys. We're going to break the fucking internet. This is going to be amazing. And you were running late. And then they kicked all of us out after we were told, yeah, Danzig's about to talk to you. They were like, oh, you don't have armbands. You got to go. And we're like, what? Yeah. And I'm just looking at Steve Zing going, Steve, help us. Steve. And we're like waiting at the back door. And Mike was like, this is so embarrassing. And then we just fucked off. But you and Mike have done a couple shows together, haven't you? I think you did.
I think that we have. It hasn't been for a long while.
Early 2000s it would have been.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. A lot of the guys that Michael plays with and played with got broken into music by Mike Hideous. So the crazy thing about his tenure in the Misfits was, as small as it was, there was this echo of it for the next 20 years because Jason Trioxin, JV, Loki, all got their first band, that first real band that was touring and stuff was with Mike Hideous. And I don't think you and Mike have you ever had a conversation over 10 seconds with each other?
I think that we did communicate at some point along the way, and I or communicated. I know that I somehow got word to him that, you know, through some a mutual acquaintance that, you know, that I was sorry for everything. He recently reached out because we had a mutual crazy person on our boards that was so bad that he and his guitarist reached out just to be like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? This person is saying awful things about you to us and saying crazy things. So it's funny that this is what's that?
I was going to say, at the time, like in that early 2000s period when you were both active, obviously, and doing stuff, was there like, you know, the same reason that we kind of ended up at ends because I was like, I didn't think anything was a big deal because I'm a retard. So in my head, I'm like, this is cool, Misfits, all one big happy family. And Mike literally had to sit me down one day and goes, listen, the goth scene is the worst, most petty thing you've ever seen, and it can't hold a candle to the Misfits subgenre of punk.
Horror punk.
Horror punk, where everybody is just hates each other's guts for some reason. And I didn't understand it. But was there like a weird resentment at that time in the early 2000s of like, I don't want to communicate with this guy, or I feel like I don't need to talk to you because fuck you, you jumped into my grave, so to speak?
There was anger, sure. There was enough anger to go around to everybody. I was so freaked out and I kept a defensive position on everything. I was just angry. Anything that came out of the Misfits, I wanted to lash out at, and I wanted to control the story because I felt so out of control. I never had control of anything in the Misfits. It was like I was clawing at things, you know, and so when someone like you came along, I projected so much anger onto you. Same with Mike Hideous. I would project that anger onto him. I would project that anger onto Goolsby, or I would, project that anger out wherever I could find it because it needed to come out, and, you know, I didn't know how to healthily do it.
The weird thing is, there's never been a reason that me and you shouldn't have gotten along famously, because we agree and we're in the worlds of so much stuff. And it was crazy because I remember I talked to you a bunch of, we've communicated a bunch of times, but I remember particularly seeing you at a show because I heard Graves is in, Graves is out, Graves is giving you a maybe, he's out, he's in. And I went, let me just talk to the guy so he could get a beat on me and he sees I'm not like some psycho or some guy who doesn't know what he's doing. And we talked, and I remember you were really amped up, like it was right after a show. But I was like, hey, man, and even the way Joe kind of went, hey, Michael, Paul wants to talk to you, he literally like tapped you on the shoulder, did that with his head, and then like ran away. And I'm like, that's not a good sign. And then you were like, listen, man, your movie, and I'm sitting there like 25, and I'm like, I really like the song Helena, and you're like, dude, this is the thing. Jerry's going to sue you. He's going to sue me. He's going to sue Mike. Everyone's fucked. And then I was like, whoa. And right after that initial burst, we just started bullshitting, got along famously. And by the end of it, you were like, all right, maybe I'll do the movie. Let's see how it goes and how far along you can get. And I went, okay, fair enough. We could do that. We talked some other time when you did it was amazing, actually, a debate with Bobby Steele, which you should do more shit like that.
I remember that. That was great.
Yeah. That was awesome, and I remember thinking, oh, good. Whatever weirdness between me and Michael, thank God that's squashed. And then the shit really hit the tipping point when one of your producers called me and said, hey, can you call into the show? And when I called in, I heard the room go silent, like, and I was like, oh, did they hang up on me or something? And then I just hear Mike, he wasn't doing this voice. This wasn't the guy I talked to. I heard the sternest voice ever just go, do you have anything to say? To the band or whoever. I think Gotham Road was in the studio. He was like, you have anything to say to Gotham Road? And I was like, I interviewed them for my movie, I think, and I liked them, and this is Paul. And you just went, yep, we got to move on, and hung up. And I'm like, fuck just happened? And I was so confused by that whole period. And like I said, man, later on in reflection, a lot of people say, and I want your comments on this, that Jerry picked you specifically because you were not only talented, obviously, but you were 19 at the time, and he felt like he could control you. Is that something that, as you got older, you felt like, man, that was a way that I was fucking used? Or is that something that ever came back to you?
Sure. I was a young guy. Again, when you're chasing things that you want real bad, which is where we're at now with cancel culture and everything. People, and we were talking about how money pours into organizations or pours into movements or pours into individual endeavors. You have to make that gut check of what are you selling out to? What are you willing to give up in order to take a step forward? And for me, at least, it got to a point where I said, all right, I can no longer continue forward and under certain, under these circumstances, being disrespected or being left out of certain things that somebody should be, in my position should be included in. And I just said no to it. And I said, instead of I could have kept my mouth shut and continued making the money that I made and continued to be famous and continued to have all the things that I had and all the perks that come with it. And I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to corrupt myself in that way, because I knew at the end of the day, at the path that I would take, the narrow road or the broad road, that I would be a very different Michael 25 years out, if I even made it out alive. Which
would you even be able to,
I probably wouldn't have.
Would you? I mean, I feel like a guy like you, I don't think you'd be able to live with yourself if you weren't being yourself. If you were like, oh, I can't talk about politics, or this is off limits, or that's off limits, because the shit that you write and the way you perform, you put it on your sleeve. You know what I mean? That's the
right. Well, that's the point. I hope that I continue to be one of the champions of individuality, and individuality is what everybody right now, I think, in our movement is about, and what is standing up for and fighting for. It's what the Proud Boys are. It's what Americans are. It's just a bunch of individuals that come together with common purpose, common morals, common decency, and stand up. Again, one of the things that drew me to Proud Boys. Again, Paul, I followed you on Instagram for years and years and years. And always respected what you were doing, and I knew what you were doing, with the Proud Boys, and what you weren't doing, But it's amazing that here you have, after all the months and months, really years of Antifa, and then what became Black Lives Matter out there, doing, truly engaging in violence, and in some cases murder. Straight up murder.
Yes, straight up murder.
And just, it's all over live streams. It's on national television, and people are literally being, attacked, like violent mobs attacking people, just sitting, eating at a restaurant. And it was the Proud Boys who said, we're going to stand up against this as individuals, as a group of Americans, as every different color, creed, size, shape, from all different backgrounds. We are not going to stand for this. And so I was very, very proud to say, yeah, I am amongst the ranks of those boys, those men who are willing to put it all on the line, like our forefathers were. That's
what the whole country's about.
That's what it's all about. John Hancock, who was a very rich man, a businessman, he signed his signature as big as he could, so that everybody can see, so that everyone would see his signature, because he put his life, his sacred honor, and his treasure on the line for godly things, for righteousness, for this country, for us,
for freedom, for the people that didn't and would never have as much as he would have. And he still fucking went out there and said, no, well, this should be for everybody.
Yeah. And again, Paul, and Bobby, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not taking up all the time. Rush Limbaugh died today, and one of the things that I read in his eulogy, he was talking about Rush had the opportunity to go and travel the world, and he was talking about remembering being in Europe and saying to himself, like, man, these civilizations, like these countries have been around for thousands of years, and he's like, what is up with this toilet? It's ridiculous in this tiny room and all of these things. They've been around for so long. And Rush Limbaugh then would bring his mind to try to answer that question, why? And it's because of America and who we are and how we have, when you take the shackles off people and you allow them to be individuals and allow their minds to think and do the things that have built this country over hundreds of years, not thousands of years, hundreds of years. We have, whether it's our industry, whether it's entertainment, our education, health, just everything. It's because we've taken the shackles off and we've, it's been DIY like you've never seen before. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we've become so great. And now all of those things are being attacked. Those are the things that are being attacked. And again, what's happening in Texas is a beautiful macrocosm of what's spreading out into the rest of the country, the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why everybody's going there. And man, it's just, I sit in awe watching like even what the country and what was acceptable 5 years ago or a year ago. And now it's like, not only is it unacceptable, you get fired over it. Like you get, blacklisted. You get told, oh, you can't eat in this restaurant over it. And then when you go, oh, hold on. And I always say this to journalists. I go, what sentence of mine in particular do you really not like? Like, I write plenty of shit. I've written for Milo. I write for Gavin. I wrote for the Proud Boy website. So find me the paragraph, the sentence, and quote me the exact racist, fascist sympathy thing that I have. And they go, well, nothing per se, but what the Proud Boys stand for. I'm like, Proud Boys stand for, I could read you the charter. Let's read. Yeah. And they don't give a fucking inch. And the crazy thing is, if you're going to stop listening to bands like the Misfits over like, oh, they have a conservative guy or had a conservative guy, or even Michael's solo shit, which you should definitely pick up, Illusions for sure. But if you are going to get mad at him, stop listening to the Ramones because there was no bigger. Yeah. Also, stop listening to the Sex Pistols because you had John Biden. These people who founded the Feast came out and basically went, well, I didn't sign up to be like a communist.
No shit.
Individualist. Like, I don't have to. And keep in mind, there are plenty of bands, including NoFX, including the Dead Kennedys, that I still listen to, that I enjoy, that I just, it just, to me, it's sad because I'm like, oh, you're talking about me. Oh, when you're saying this piece of shit or whatever in this song, or when you get up on a platform, you're talking about me. By the way, do you know what the first band I ever interviewed in my life when I was doing college radio was? This is a fucking mind blower. Anti-Flag.
They're the worst perpetrators.
Worst.
Oh my God.
We get woke because at the time I was interviewing Pat Fettick and Justin Sane, and I remember asking them all, and they were really great guys, like nice enough guys. But I remember getting into politics with them and realizing, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And not only do you not know what you're talking about, it's all you write about. So all of the songs and the lyrics that you write about is from this misguided thing. Oh, and by the way, I see a price sticker here on this CD of yours that I bought. So you can't be 100% against capitalism. Not to mention the fact, and we in my movie Living the American Nightmare, it touched on this, and we talked a lot about this, that all these musicians and guys like Michael, people assume, oh, he has albums you could buy in the store. That means he's an incredibly rich, well-off guy. That's not the fucking case, man. These guys bust their fucking ass. And I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, even though Mike will get pissed at me for just fucking mentioning his name in any context. But Mike told me, I said to him, didn't you save your money from when you were in the Misfits or something like that? And he went, what the fuck are you talking about? And I went, well, you got paid to do those shows. You must have got paid really well. And he goes, I got paid $250 a show. which is more money as the front man for the Misfits, which I said, wow, I make more money than that now. And he said, yeah, no shit. Graves made more money than that too. Jerry definitely made more money than that. But that's the thing. You have guys who 100,000 people are in a crowd in Sweden at a festival watching and going, wow, that guy, he must be somebody. And at the end of the day, he's making 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year, and they really do gut it out. And then you have these other guys like Rage Against the Machine who couldn't make more money if it was possible. And those guys are sitting there telling you to give your money up. Fuck you.
Right.
I'll go with a fucking capitalist Michael Graves gutting it out in clubs any fucking day than go with a fucking guy who is richer than I'll ever dream of being, who owns 3 fucking mansions and sits there and lectures me on how I am evil, white privilege, and I should give all my fucking money up. When you know in his heart, any of the guys in that band, Tom Morello or whoever, they don't believe that because they're not doing it.
That's right.
I've always said, if you wanted to be charitable, if you're like, I want to give whatever, reparations to black people, Native Americans, whatever, or if I want to give more money to the poor, I've always said this. What's stopping you? You know that's not illegal, right? If you have money and you're like, I want to take more of my paycheck, go to the black family down the street and hand them your fucking paycheck. And when they're done laughing their fucking ass off at you, I'm sure they'll be very grateful. But nobody does that because it's not their money, it's all of our money that they want to fuck with. Which drives me nuts. It's the most selfish thing ever.
Liberals never practice what they preach. Like, I actually saved a homeless person off the streets of New York City and completely 100%. He was living, quick story. I was managing a little Verizon wireless in Penn Station. And this homeless dude, I became friends with him. He had a BlackBerry and he would always ask me if he could charge it all the time. And then after, months or whatever, I just became friends with the guy and, basically took him totally off the streets and 100% rehabbed him. Like he's off the streets and working and stuff. And he was he was on the streets for like 8 years. He was a truck driver, making a lot of money. And then, his wife was not paying the bills, not paying the mortgage and stuff. So his house got foreclosed. So he freaked out. Anyway. But the moral of the story is, liberals aren't going to do that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're really not going to do that. And we will. Conservatives will do the thing. But liberals will probably, just donate to the homeless shelter or something like that. That's it. But not really help. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
If that. Look at Bernie's charitable donations. They don't exist.
Yeah. Hey, Michael Graves, we could ask you stuff all night. One thing I really wanted to ask you, this is the last thing, about COVID, touring during COVID. What is that like?
It's like not happening.
Not happening at all, huh? Just not existent.
I went out in September. I went out at the end of September, all through October, on tour. And compounded with all the problems of being canceled, being in the situation that we're in. It's really, really hard. The industry is decimated. Small businesses are decimated across the country. And this was months ago. And I heard it time after time. A lot of the clubs are privately owned. And, so if these, like any other business, you go under quick when you don't have business, when you don't have people coming in and drinking and eating or doing any of the things that you do when you have a club. So a lot of these places, were either out of business or they were unable to comply with what they needed to comply with to open. They weren't allowed to open. Or they were open, and in a lot of cases, they said, Michael, we'd love to have you back, but we are so on edge of being shut down that we can't put your name on the billboard because of the other places that have put your name on the billboards. And there was a couple of places were so inundated with people on their social sites and calling on the phone about burning the place down and physically harming people. And it just became such a shit show. Folks are like, we can't we love you, but we can't take that risk right now.
Oh my God.
So, and that's the point. That's where we're at in the attack, the attack against all of us. So it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing. And as we get further into this now, it becomes worse and worse. And again, not to go down the rabbit hole, I should jump here to go put the kids to bed, but that's the point. They've decimated people like me. They've cut my legs off. A year ago, the economy was roaring. I was turning down work left and right. I couldn't say yes to any more work. It was amazing. All of this money that was trickling down and the people were confident and people were happy. And when people are confident and people are happy, they want to go out and they want to hear music and they want to spend their money and they want to drink beer and they want to be with their friends, and the people and the places that they go to. Well, all of those people, they're spending their money. So it's a great thing that was happening. And then just like that, overnight, 2 weeks to stop the spread has become this, where we're at now. You can't go to Europe. I can't go to Europe because you can't get there, and the place is locked down. South America, I'm planning South America, but you really can't get going again until March of next year. So it's a very, very difficult thing. We have lost. I thank God had some discernment, and I made some business moves that have helped me through this time. And if I hadn't done that, I don't know what my family would do. I wouldn't be able to take care of them. But in my situation, and a lot of other people's situations, savings aren't forever. And at some point, again, I'm 46 years old. It's not like I can just go, not that I have any problems doing it. I can't just go get a job at Home Depot or get a job at wherever. And it's not because of a pride thing. I'll work wherever. But I have 3 kids, I have to take care of, them. I have to take care of my house. And it's not like I don't have big cars. I don't have a lot of things. I live on a very small farm. I have animals. I have chickens that lay eggs and I eat them and stuff. And I have a garden that I eat from. I keep it low key, and simple. There's a creek that runs outside the house I can get water from and all. And, but life costs money. And so there's a lot of people like me, a lot of musicians, a lot of artists that are just gone, that will not and cannot recover from what continues to go on, actually. And
venues, which we've already had
a
dearth of venues. Like, it's not like we had a shitload of places that we could play before. In North Jersey, there was like 3 places. Yeah, those places are going to be done. They're done. Bars, restaurants, clubs. The way they made their living is stuffing as much people in there as possible, and they're done. It's unreal.
And again, and that's the point of it, though, Bobby. I mean, and Paul, right? So now that the middle of everything, people like me have been taken out. Now you have what when it comes back, all you have are Live Nation venues. You have these venues that are part of the club, if you will. They're part of the clique, where people like me aren't welcome, and so we're just moved to the side.
Communism. We live in communism.
We live in
Joseph McCarthy was right. Okay. Let me just wind it down here. It's true. Joseph McCarthy was right.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Michael, I can't let him go without breaking his balls. Tell everybody, if you remember, what was the original name that they picked for you to play in the Misfits under?
Microphone. And sometimes I have blonde moments, right? And they came up with that. Kenny came up with that real quick, and they're like, all right, we're gonna call you Microphone. I'm like, all right, cool. I have Italian blood in me. I'm from North Jersey. Raphone. That's kind of cool, And I swear to God, dude, I was driving home and I'm going, Microphone. And I'm like, whoa, that cannot be my name. And I called Tank. I'm like, Tank, do you realize? And he's like, yeah, of course I realize that. I'm like, this can't happen. We have to think of a name, bro. We have to think of something. And he was like, how about Graves? I'm like, that'll do.
Yeah, that's better than when they first told me that. When they first told me that, they go, they wanted to call him Rafone, and I went, "What? Was he supposed to be like a gangster skeleton guy? Like what the fuck?" And they're like, "No, Mike Rafone." I was like, "No, you dodged a fucking bullet there, my friend."
Thank God. Yeah, but at first I'm like, "Yeah, all right, Rafone, that's tough." All right.
Dude, I'll say this, man, and because we're closing up, but you have to put the kids to bed. But I'll say this, man: if the Proud Boys gave me nothing else, the fact that after almost a decade of feeling like I had bad feelings towards this guy and feeling like there's a guy out there who hates me and I didn't know why, and I didn't like him for the same.
Well, you're, in all due respect, Paul, you're hateable.
You have a punchable face. I've been told this.
You do.
So that was probably Michael's first clue. He looked at me, raised an eyebrow, and go, "I want to fucking punch him. Maybe I shouldn't do his movie." But I mean, if the Proud Boys gave me nothing else, the fact that it made two regular ass dudes who shouldn't have had beef with each other squash the fucking beef, that to me is worth everything. It's worth all the fucking bullshit, phony people telling me I'm this and that, and telling you. To me, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, man, because I don't have to walk around with that burden anymore, and neither does he. And I think that's a beautiful thing, man. I love you, dude. I think you're beautiful. I think your music's great.
I appreciate
Fuck yeah.
it. I respect the hell out of you. I really do.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You both?
Well,
you both? Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say from now on, yeah, Uhuru. From now on, we can follow each other on like Parler, because I guess we're not allowed on Instagram.
Yeah. And anybody, if anybody has Parler, I mean, if that's back up or whatever, it's not really back up for me fully. Please share this. Oh my God. Dude, the algorithms are totally insane. It's not even fair.
Right.
Some idiot 20-year-old is in a back room. No, he knows how to code. They've all decided. They're all, down with the communism. They listen to NoFX, and that's it. All right. So we're fucked.
You said all the trigger words.
Yeah. Yes. And listen, we're gonna start a Proud Boys band. Okay.
Yes.
So we got a call out for the Proud Boys band. We need another guitarist.
Trump tone.
We're gonna call it Cock.
Yeah.
Actually,
how about
cock? Fucking bad.
No, somebody's a cock star.
No, just Cock.
Cock star.
Well, listen, I'll play guitar. I've never played before, but fuck it. I'll just jump up there. I'll figure something out. I'm sure
I
I'll
want to
be
be the drummer. I'll be the drummer. We can do
drummer.
a Phil.
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins thing. Totally.
And we'll get the most autistic Asian guy we have in the New York chapter to be the singer. It'll be fucking wonderful.
Yes.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to my podcast, and thank you so much to my guests, because you guys are both very talented, man. Both very talented guests. I know I didn't get any love. I know I am. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm talented too. So thank you. Anyway, thank you for watching my podcast. See you later, guys. Whoa, shit. Oh, yeah.
Pickles podcast. He always says that's me. With that look on his face, he'll talk about
How about that for punk rocks?
Damn it. Tattoos, t-shirts, politics, history, and hot sauce on everything. Bobby Pickles, pop culture, documentaries, conspiracy theories, sarcasm, and fear. It's a conversation, start listening, cause we're all here. Bobby Pickles podcast. That's me.
Yeah, and it is over.